Alright, hello everybody. Solid Husky here. I did this once before, but this is going to be the actual one. Like, my other one, I put in too much opposing bias from other content creators. Well, sorta. Because, well, you know. But I just recently, shout out to Ice Gold. He made a tier list. Go check it out. I'll link it in the description. I will definitely link his in the description below. Definitely has some good points. And does a pretty good job at putting together a pretty good tier list. So, well, let's begin. So, start off with the cream of the crop. Well, what would have been the cream of the crop way back when? Wizard City. What I could say about this world is probably far and few in between. Unfortunately, the update to the questline killed it, and it just doesn't have that same nostalgia factor anymore. So it's gonna go into D tier. Crocotopia. Once again, it has the same, doesn't really have the same problem as Wizard City. It has a little bit more nostalgia factor to it, but its questline is sort of meh, and you really don't have a lot going for it until there's the graphical update and all that for Crocotopia. For now, D tier. So, Marleybone, probably one of my more favorite worlds out of the first arc. Definitely B tier. Has its moments where it's good, has some okay, questline is pretty quick to get through. And we'll move on to Mushu now. Mushu, fairly solid world, average. Graphics need a tune-up, but that's about it that we can put in there. Really don't have much to say about Mushu besides, it does have a great questline in the story. Me being big on the lore stance, like if this was based on lore, the Mushu lore would probably bump it up to A tier, and Crocotopia would probably be up with there, but we're not gonna do that. I might do a lore-based tier list at a later time, but either way. Dragon Spire. I have mixed feelings about this one. Obviously, when people talk about it, they talk about, oh, it's a slog, it's ugly, it takes a long time to get through, it feels like it takes forever. Yes, but it does have its storyline plot, but with your final showdown with Moustair, giving it a little jump. It's above average, in my opinion. Definitely doesn't have the edge over Marleybone, but still decent tier list. Decent for the B tier. Alright, Grizzleheim, Winter Tusk. Both storyline and thing are great. The Everwinter, Awakening the Frost Titan, the whole thing, really gives the story of this world a lot of feeling to it. And, it's one of the many fights that you have to go through. And also getting to meet Grandmother Raven is also another thing, since Bartleby and Grandmother Raven are sort of together. So, it's an A tier world. Wouldn't put it any lower. Might not put it any higher either, but, it's decent where it is. Celestia, F tier. I have no real good things to say about this world. I just finished doing it on my balance, and I hated it. I really wanted to get out of that world ASAP. Me being the person that wants to do all the side quests, it made me hate the world even more. It's ugly. The story doesn't really feel much. It just feels like you're just trying to help. It's Marleybone 2.0, just with a worse storyline to it. Because that's mainly what you're doing in Celestia, is helping out the Marleybonians. I already did it once, and I enjoyed it the first time. Second time, it seemed kind of repetitive. So, it's gonna go down to F tier, and also the graphics don't help it either. Wisteria, fun, little solid world. Very short, very comical, has its comedic parts to it. Definitely above average than Mushu. And, yeah, nothing else left to say about it, except, what it does well. Okay, Zafaria, hot take number 1. Well, for some parts, it is going up into below Grizzleheim in A tier. I like the world. There is the repetitive Greyhorn quest, but that doesn't really bother me anymore. Obviously, questline, you want to enjoy the questline as much as you can. Sometimes having repetitive monster fights does get a little tedious. But in my opinion, it has a great story arcing to it, with chasing down Morganth through the different parts of Zafaria. You know, you're fixing Zafaria's, relations with each of the different tribes, between the zebras, the lions, and the elephants. You're trying to get them to be more unified. You're unifying them while also getting them to stand against Morganth. Since Morganth's trying to cause all this trouble to get her deck of shadows. Definitely has its good points. Definitely has its statement, and it does stay in the A tier. Another A tier world, Avalon. And a lot of people hate Avalon. There are people that just gut this thing because of the story, because of what it is. I don't take my time in this world. I like getting through it as quickly as possible, but as I'm doing it, I enjoy every minute of it. I enjoy every minute going through every single part of the world, discovering, going through each area. It's just a well put together world, and does sort of show, what happened prior to Morganth, changing heart and becoming the evil antagonist of part 2. You get to see what led up to that point, sort of. You have part of it from Avalon. You have part of it from Ghost Avalon. You learn a little bit more about Morganth and what happened. And that's the main thing that I got from this, and I do enjoy it. Anyways, back on topic. D tier for... Okay, so before I attack Avalon for its faults, I am going to name off its good points. The quest line is pretty good. The quest, now obviously a lot of people might gut the quest line too, but for what the quest line has you do, it's alright. It has its good points in it. You need to get to Morganth. Morganth came here for, to try to... There was something on Azteca that she needed to get to. Now, whether or not it was actually Moustair the Undying or not, we don't know. We probably will never know if, Moustair the Undying's coffin in Azteca was purely by chance, or, But either way, it's... she came here for some reason, as part of the prophecy, because of the Skyfall and the meteor, Shabalba. That was part of her prophecy. Part of the prophecy that she needed to do. But, either way, it is a long world, and it is tedious, and the bosses are dual schooled, which you wouldn't know unless you actually searched them up, and they are kind of meat shields, So definitely can't put it into C tier. It has to go to D tier. Maybe C tier, yeah. I think it'll be the lowest on C tier. No, wait, hold on. We'll switch Crocotopia and Azteca around. Alright, Aquila, Mount Olympus, A tier. Atlantia is C tier. Tartarus is S tier. And that will put it at B tier. It's above average. All three of them combined are above average. It does give you the Blade of the Fell Titan and the Alpha Omega ring, which are best in slot level 90 rings and can't carry you through until you get your Merciless rings and stuff like that. Chrysalis is now the first one that is borderline S tier for me. And with that, we are going to put it in between Grizzleheim, Wintertusk, and Zafaria. Chrysalis, it's the big finale of the Morgantine arc. I'll call it the Morgantine arc because it sounds cool. Yeah, so Morganth, you're chasing Morganth, through these worlds, and now you come to Chrysalis. The place where she delved into Shadow for the first time and realized that she could destroy the spiral using the Shadow Web. If she could get her deck of shadows back and learn Celestia's magic. In sense. So now the Council of Light have told you that you need to chase her down and get her. You know, I like how the start of it, you know, you're sort of on the side, you know, you start off Chrysalis as sort of like a double agent. You know, you're working under the Morgantine people, but you're also, you know, working for the Council of Light to figure out what Morganth's doing. And that is the one thing that I do like, is how, you know, they sort of etch you on, and they say, hey, you know, with shadow magic, you may be able to also deal with, you know, you can deal with Morganth, you know. Well, you know, delving into shadow might be a thing that you need to stop Morganth. It's, you know, and introducing shadow magic was probably one of the coolest things in this arc, in this world, besides fighting Morganth herself. That Morganth fight is timeless, priceless, and it has its part in A tier. Alrighty. So, the 4 dungeons. Kembelung. In depth, Kembelung is okay. It has grown on me the couple of times I've done it. I am going to do it on my balance, which is level 67. I am going to take a look at it a little more with a wider lens when I go through it. For now, Kembelung would be probably a C tier if it existed here. The Bargain Palace, definitely a B tier. House of Scales and Zigzag, A tier. And then Dartmoor's S tier. We're going to put it in the high end, the middle of A tier here. Because it has everything to it. The storyline for all of them are pretty good. And one thing about the House of Scales and Zigzag that you might not know, there is a side quest in Wizard City at level 50. You might not have done it before. It's called Brispry's Tower. If you have, you may realize, if you've played it, at the end you get 2 keys from Auric Nightglider, who is the top boss in that tower. And both of those keys are tied in to Zigzag, which is cool. And then, of course, you have Dartmoor, the big finale world, and it delved into a darker... It had a darker tone than most of the other places you've been to. And I like that. And also, you're not, you know... You have no soul if you did not cry at that final part with Sylvia and Malistaire. Because it is just touching. Music doesn't help either when you're doing it. But yeah, definitely for the 4 dungeons, that's where that goes. Polaris, first S tier of the game. First S tier. Hooray! Yay! Yeah! Alright, cool. Yeah, Polaris, best world, obviously. I digress. Great quest line. Great gameplay. Short, sweet, to the point. There's nothing else more to describe about it, and it's not really something, you know. Arcanum. Average. It's okay. You know, for the time that you're in there, you know, during the arc, during the 3rd arc and stuff, it's alright. You don't really do much inside the Arcanum, but it does have a nice sort of peaceful tone to it. Sort of like when you're staying in Ravenwood, you know, it's got that sort of peaceful overtone to it. One thing I would like to mention, if you've ever, you know, if you're not, you know, maybe one day, you know, if you're just sort of, you know, on game, go to, like, Mushu, go to Grizzleheim, and stand in a street, and stand, like, in Grizzleheim, stand next to a waterfall, and then in Mushu, just stand, like, in a part of, you know, just stand there with the music off, and just have sound effects on. It is very peaceful. These are very peaceful worlds when you think about them. And that's what the type of tone the Arcanum and Ravenwood share with each other. But, you know, average Arcanum. Anyways, Imperia, it was alright. It was good for me. It's not S tier for me. It's not A tier. It's low B tier. Medulla is an annoying fight, and the first half of Imperia is not my favorite, really. But part 2 was pretty good, and that's what made it up to me. Alright, Mirage, next S tier world. There's really nothing I don't like about Mirage. The character cast is great. And there's a transformation thing that you have in this world that I love. Shout out to Ice Gold, because he loved the comment that I made about that. If you do, you know, and I'm not gonna spoil it, but if you're in Mirage and you are in the Thieves' Den, be ready for that transformation. You'll love it. It is goofy, it's corny, and you'll enjoy every time being in that transformation. It is hilarious. Anyways, Catacombs, the tie-in to everything. Now, I gotta say, Catacombs for me, if I was basing it off of, when it first came out and everything, I probably would have dunked it and put it down here in D tier. I have done a little bit of it. I might have to do some more of it, but for now, B tier. It's going to be on the low end of B tier for me. There's just stuff about it that, I have not went through yet, but for what I have went through of the Catacombs, it's been enjoyable for the most part. Okay, next up, Caramel. I think Caramel definitely goes up here, and this is where I finally bump Grizzleheim Winter Tuska into A tier. Caramel bumps them up one, so yeah. I like Caramel's cheery overtone with this sort of dark undertone of the capitalism thing. Very nice little point to it. Very good. Okay, now we're into the home stretch here. And, well, Lemuria has its good points, but it is definitely an average world for me. Extra bonus points to it, going on top of C tier for the heap. Great area. And I might actually switch places. Catacombs can go C tier, high end C tier, and low B tier for Lemuria. I think that's good. Good point for me. I know I have a lot of B tier worlds, but that's because I'm trying to keep them sort of, if I had, if Wizard City, peak Wizard City, and, if Wizard City was still old questline, you would only have, it would look something like, it would probably look something like this. This thing would jump spots if it was the normal questline, but, Anyways, Novus. The Rochambeau, the introduction of the sort of Rochambeau thing to it, Novus's gear grind is a little tedious. The world's okay. I like the remix themes from it. It definitely is middle of, low end B tier, high C tier, above Catacombs. And last but not least, we have Wallaroo. The world that I have the least experience on, but definitely goes in the middle of B tier. Has its good points. Could be better. And actually, with that's going to bump all these up one, so Chrysalis will go up into S tier. Because it definitely, Marybone can go into A tier, but it could also sit in the top of B tier. Same thing with, Chrysalis. It'll sit S tier, but it could sit in the top of A tier. And really, I might switch the 4 dungeons, Zafaria, and Avalon around. The 4 dungeons definitely stays in A tier, but it could be back here, but it could also be here. And yeah, this is probably, what I think, and this looks good. I think this is my tier list for everything. And because, I gave the last one, I sort of, took a more, sort of tried to be a little bit more, on par with some of the other thoughts of other people. And then it's like, no, make one that is your honest opinion on all the worlds. And this is it. This is, obviously, seeing, obviously 2 surprises that do surprise me that I did put them as low as I did here is Mushu, Croc, but it's because of the graphics, really. The storyline's good on both. The nostalgia factor's good on both. It's just that the graphical update needs to happen before they go any higher. Besides that, once again, shout out Ice Gold. I watched his video before making this tier list. My new revamped tier list, actually. So, either way, a new video will be coming out later to this, will be coming out next week. So watch out for that. And also, I will be starting to, there might be a new wizard that might be coming to the full game playthrough that, yeah, so watch out for that. I am going to be making those again, but we are going to have some little side stuff that will be going on during the playthrough, like certain 4 dungeon appearances and Mount Olympus solo and stuff like that. We'll see what happens, but hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next one.